Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to an episode of Not Too Comic Book. For this episode, I'm going to talk about this week's episode of Supergirl and Lucifer. So let's start off with Supergirl. Basically, in this episode, the antagonist for this episode was the jailer or guard from Fort Roz. He had basically, over the couple months, had been, disguising himself as a detective. And basically, he had been going around killing all the Fort Roz escapees. It was kind of like, it was his version of justice. He even kind of gives that little spiel to Kara, like he's like, oh, he respected her mother, like she dealt out these harsh judgments to these criminals because she knew it was the only way to stop them. He said he was only carrying on her will, which is kind of like, which I call BS on this. Like, I doubt she would appreciate you killing people in her name. Locking people up is one thing, but outright killing them in the name of justice is something completely different. I will admit, I did like that that professor, that alien professor who just couldn't get like human phrases right. One of them was like, oh, as they say, up the creek without a poodle. And Carl was like, it's paddle. He's like, yeah, that's right, paddle. Yeah, that makes sense. I really like that. Other big things in this episode was the fact that Hank, Kara's still super pissed at Hank. I mean, granted, Hank killed her Aunt Astra, which we all know it was really Alex, but Hank is telling Alex to not, tell Kara about it. He's like, no, it's fine. I can stand her hating me, but if she finds out that you're the one that killed Astra, it's just going to shatter your relationship. You might not be able to come back from that. Granted, like the way she's talking about it with Hank, I mean, imagine if that was Alex. It would just be worse, because she's talking about like, I don't know if I can even work with you anymore, Hank. Like, I don't need, maybe later on down the road I might be able to forgive you for what you've done, but I don't think I can do that, like right now. I don't even know if we'd be able to work together anymore. I mean, which I'm saying, I feel bad for Hank, because it's like, he's taking all that like punishment for nothing, but it's like, I mean, it could. And if I was in Supergirl's position, I don't know if I could technically forgive him. Granted, it's like, your aunt wasn't all that good. Granted, she had her good moments, but let's not forget, like, in that situation, if I was John, I'd be like, yeah, she tried to kill me, so I killed her. Yes, I was only defending myself. Would you rather me have been the one that died? Okay, that's a little messed up. And granted, I get it, like, Superman and Supergirl, it's never, like, at least in the stuff I've seen, it's always been kind of like a no killing rule with them, To me, I'm like, I get Kara's side of it, but I'm like, you should know that he's not going to kill someone just to kill them, or you should know he has a reason. Well, she probably does, but still, that's messed up to kind of treat Hank like that, you gotta be a little bit understanding. Like, yeah, he had a knife to her throat. She had a knife to his throat. She was going to kill him. So her dying, I don't know. I mean, in Alex's mind, it was probably like an easy choice. It's like, oh, do I choose between Astra and Hank? It's like, yeah, Hank. No duh. Astra is kind of a bad person. She's planning to probably. There's no telling what she's going to do to planet Earth, but I doubt it's anything good. But who knows? Some other stuff that went down in episode, Kat is super pissed at Kara. Still pissed about the whole dumping Adam thing and Adam not being around as much anymore because of that. So she doesn't have to get to be around her son a lot more because of Kara. I mean, granted, this was brought up in the last episode, but it's in this episode as well. I'm in the form of Kat hiring a new assistant number 1, Siobhan, and bumping Kara down to assistant number 2, which I immediately, it's only been in one episode and I already dislike Siobhan. I mean, granted, I'm sure she's made to be like that. She was written to be like, oh, I detest you so much. You can see it in Kara's eyes. She's just like, God, I hate you. I wish I could just blast your head with some heat rays and you just be done. She's just like skulking all over the office listening to crap. It's like, don't you have work to do? All in everyone else's business and then gonna talk crap to Kara like, well, yeah, don't worry, I did your job for you. It's like, I hate you. And then it's like, she's just running her mouth like, yeah, eventually it's going to be later on down the road, I'm going to get to all this is just a stepping stone for her, because she's like, eventually I'm going to get to where Cat is. I'm going to be the next Cat, and you're going to be wiping your face with towels with my face on it or something like that. And so it's just like, if you're not careful, basically it's like, eventually you're going to be the one like assisting me in the future or something like that. It's just like, I hate you. So for James and Lucy kind of had a little bit of a falling out, because the fact is that he kind of let it slip that basically him and Supergirl are connected, and it's just like, for Lucy, in her mind, it's like, oh god, I'm losing you to a Kryptonian all over again, because first I lost you to Superman, now I'm losing you to Supergirl, and it's even worse because she's a girl, so that in her mind that's just going to lead to different things, like, oh my god, that relationship's even more intimate. Which led to James kind of sulking a little bit, and him and Kat having this interesting conversation where Kat told him that story about the actor who was like an abusive guy, like, but no one like really knew that too much. It was just like, oh, like she had heard all these things about this actor she was supposed to interview. He was like such a nice guy and all this stuff, but then she heard from a makeup artist how he would abuse his wife, and that makeup artist would always have to be applying makeup to his wife. And Kat, instead of calling him out, like, you know, publicizing like he's abusive to his wife, she just wrote a nice piece about him, in her words, a puff piece, and he just, you know, she just let it go. A couple months after that, he ended up killing his wife. And James was like, oh crap. And James was like, do you ever regret that? She's like, yeah, like every day, that if I had written the truth, maybe that woman would still be alive. Which prompts James to confront Kara about this whole like keeping Maxwell Lord locked up thing, which, how I personally feel about it, Max needs to stay locked up. I mean, F that dude. He knows her identity. He can come and destroy her life at any moment. Granted, later on it was kind of like a stalemate, because Alex is like, we have information on you and all the stuff you've done, so if you leak anything about Kara or us, we'll leak stuff about you. And Max is like, oh, I get it. Mutually assured destruction. Got it. And then he just has that little smug look about him. But James confronted her. Anyway, James confronted her, Kara, and was basically saying, like, even though Max is a testable, terrible person, you as Supergirl have to be held, you have to be morally higher than him. You can't stoop down to his level. I mean, yes, he's afraid of you because you are literally a goddess in this case, walking amongst mortal men. And so it's understandable for him to be afraid of you, but it's because you have those powers that you have to be held to a higher responsibility, which is kind of sucks. It's like, no, the son of a gun had tried to kill her. He cloned her into Bizarro and sent Bizarro out to kill her. It's like, no. He also knows her identity, and once again can ruin her life if he wanted to. Like, I mean, he could expose her as Kara and Supergirl being the same person and end up like, she ends up losing her normal life. And that's not fair, you know. But I don't know. I'm not okay with the whole Max Lord being let go thing, but I get it. You have to be the good guy. I guess I'm just a villain on this. I'm like, no, keep the SOB locked up forever. I don't care if we're breaking the law. Forget it. But that's just my mindset on the whole thing. And finally, we also have this plan that Nam had mentioned earlier in the episode called Myriad. And later at the end of the episode, Kara brings that up to her hologram mom. You know, essentially what's her version of Jor-El for Clark. You know, it's a hologram of her mom that has all this like information, this program. And she brings up Myriad, this plan that Nam had mentioned, and then the program kind of freezes. I was like, whoa, don't bring up Myriad. And she says Myriad again. It's like, do not say it again, because if you say Myriad again, this program will delete itself, essentially like that. And it's like, what is this plan, and why is it so bad that even a computer system is willing to delete itself, not to talk about it? I'm very curious to find out what this is. Maybe it's something, maybe this whole plan actually has something related to comic books. Like I said, I'm not a big comic book person, so I don't know. That's all I'm really going to talk about for Supergirl. Now moving on to this week's episode of Lucifer, where we have Lucifer kind of playing around with his newfound mortality. As you know, last episode, Chloe shot him and he found out like, holy crap, I'm not immortal like I was. But I'm kind of enjoying this possibility of mortality. It's kind of interesting. I've never been able to feel like pain in God knows how long. So it's going to be very interesting to test this out. Which his servant Mazikeen isn't all that keen to the idea. I mean, because to her, she's I mean, very much against it actually, because she's like, you're vulnerable now, you know, and we don't even know what is causing this vulnerability for you. You can actually be hurt, you can be killed now, yet you're treating it like a game, which is it makes sense. It's kind of Lucifer. I mean, playing games is his thing. You even have Mazikeen and him like kind of getting like super kind of pissed at each other. Mazikeen in particular being pissed at Lucifer. She's like, you're just playing around too much, you're immortal now, you can die. But he's like, come on, you know, he's like basically like, you're just a little jealous because of the new woman in my life, you know, Chloe. And Mazikeen's like, jealous of a human? Are you kidding? What the hell is wrong with you? But she's just like, you know what, forget it. I'm not going to, like, you know, when you come down, when you're in trouble, I'm not going to be there to save your ass anymore. And he's like, sure. He was basically like, no matter where you are, or no matter what you want, you will always know exactly where I am, who I'm with, and what I'm doing, because kind of basically her job is to always make sure that he's safe. So it's like, no matter, even if she doesn't want to look out for him, she'll inadvertently have to, because they're just, it's kind of a package deal. And we also have Lucifer kind of charming his way with Chloe's captain as a means of becoming a consultant, you know, to help Chloe out in today, like this episode's case, much to her annoyance. And in this episode, we also find out a little bit more about Chloe in particular, that there's one particular cop, I don't remember his name, that kind of has animosity towards Chloe, just because Chloe is super sure that that particular cop's partner is actually dirty, and because of that, he kind of treats her like crap. It's kind of, I guess it's kind of proof that like Chloe doesn't kind of get along with a lot of other cops. And Lucifer's opinion is kind of like, man, you have no friends, do you? Kind of, in his, not paraphrasing a little bit, he's kind of basically like, man, you have no friends, you don't get along with people. People don't like you, do they? We also have Mazikeen and what's Angel Dude's name? Amenadol? I think that's it. Amenadol and Mazikeen kind of working together, because it's like, she wants Lucifer to go back to hell. She wants to go back to hell, and she wants Lucifer to come back too. Not for just her sake. She wants to come back for she wants him to go back for his sake, you know, before he, you know, he's changing before her eyes. He's not the same Lucifer that she's come to know, and she doesn't like him changing. And Amenadol's asking her to give me some kind of opening that I can use, some kind of weakness that I can use to force Lucifer to go back to hell. But she's like, Lucifer doesn't talk to me anymore. We're not as tight as we used to be. And basically she throws out the therapist that Lucifer has been seeing, Dr. Martin. And Amenadol goes like, okay. And he actually introduces himself to Dr. Martin. It almost seems, and just from their introduction with one another and the way she's acting, it almost seems like he kind of has that similar power to Lucifer's, where he can kind of like charm people, like kind of that persuasive power. It seems like he might have it as well, because she was just looking like she was about to lose damn control just looking at him. But in the episode, he kind of like hints, it's like, oh, let's go out for coffee. I'll tell you about some of my patients. You tell me about like some of yours. And she's like, yeah, I got like a lot of patients I can tell you about it. He's like, good. So that's going to be interesting to see where that goes. And basically, we also have a scene where Lucifer and Chloe are basically being held at gunpoint. There's like a whole bunch of guns around them. The lights go out, and Mazikeen shows up and kicks some serious ass, takes everyone down by herself, which is just pretty awesome in my opinion. Even though she said she wasn't going to save him, she came and did it anyway. But she made sure to tell Chloe, I did it for him, not for you, and then walks away. And then Lucifer at the end of the episode is kind of like, basically like, I knew you'd always have my back, you always do, essentially is kind of what he said. Granted that not, I didn't say it nearly as elegantly as he did, but Mazikeen was basically like, yeah, I'll always protect you from danger, even the ones you don't see. And we see her at an episode in Chloe's house, and we even see her real like what she really looks like in her reflection, because you know, from time to time you kind of get to see what Lucifer really looked like. So now Chloe's got a target on her back because Mazikeen looks at her as a threat to Lucifer. So it's gonna be interesting to see where that goes from there. So, but that's all I really want to talk about in this episode of Not So Comic Book. Be sure to tune in for the next episode where we talk about this week's episode of Flash and iZombie. So until then, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy a good day, and goodbye.